Celtics may shake up the roster now. Who leaves and who arrives latest? You have that feeling of everything is fine, but there's one piece missing, right? Like, the Celtics are strong, they fight up there, but when the game gets tough, everyone thinks the same thing. Can this squad last until the end? Today I'm going to bring you the latest on what's going on behind the scenes, who can leave, who can arrive, and most importantly, what this possible change actually solves for the team. Without smoke, straight to the point. And before you comment, don't touch what's working. Calm down. I'll show you the most likely scenario, the real cost, and what would be the trade that makes the Celtics more ready to be champions. Let's do it. Quickly before continuing, if you enjoy Celtics content without the hassle, subscribe now to strengthen our community. We are in the race towards 1,000 subscribers, and in fact, reaching this goal really helps the channel to grow, reach more fans, and bring more news and analysis frequently. So do this combo with me. Subscribe, leave a like to let YouTube know that this video is worth it, and activate the bell so you don't miss any updates. Because when there's new information about the exchange, you'll be one of the first to know. Closed? Now stay with me because next I'm going to show you who is most threatened with leaving and which name can come up to solve the cast's pain. Let's go to the video. When you turn on YouTube and see that sea of titles screaming trade confirmed, bomb on Celtics, star arriving, I completely understand what goes through your head. It gives you anxiety, it gives you curiosity, and at the same time, it gives you that feeling that someone is trying to pull your arm and say, come here, click now, because it's urgent. But between the urgency of the title and the reality of what is happening with the Boston Celtics, there is a huge space. And it is exactly in this space that I like to talk to you here on the Celtics Talk Show. No rush, no theater, looking at what really matters. The team, the construction, the moment, and what really makes sense for those who are following this season with their hearts in their hands. Why are we going to agree on something? The Celtics are not just any team. Anyone who follows Boston knows the franchise has an almost emotional relationship with the way it competes. We don't just fall in love with victories, we fall in love with identity, for consistency, for discipline, for that feeling that the team knows who it is, even when the game isn't pretty. And then, when a giant rumor appears saying that the board confirmed this or that, it makes us want to believe it because our minds automatically think about the final prize, the banner, the path to the playoffs, the chance to end the season on top. But in real life, the decisions that lead to a title are rarely made based on impulse. And honestly, today's Celtics are one of the best examples of that. I want to start by asking you something very directly, as if I were right next to you on the couch. Are you watching this season's games? Because if you are, you've already seen what a lot of people seem to ignore when they open their mouths to talk about a bombshell exchange. The Celtics, even going through difficult times, even dealing with absences and adjustments, have shown something that is worth gold: internal responses. Responses that are born within the cast. Answers that don't depend on an external savior appearing out of nowhere. And this is where the part that bothers me most about these rumors comes in. The way they treat our bottle as if it were an insoluble problem. As if the only solution for the Celtics to take the next step was necessarily to throw everything up and look for a gigantic, expensive name, full of history and full of risks. Especially when they talk about Anthony Davis. I know, he's an impact player, a champion, a guy who, in form, changes the game on both sides of the court. But this is precisely why the conversation needs to be mature. Because you can't just look at the name and pretend that the rest doesn't exist. You can't think of talent as if talent were a loose entity that works independently of the context. Basketball isn't like that, and Boston knows this better than anyone. Now look how interesting. At the same time that the internet is making noise with rumors, the Celtics are building very solid things with pieces that few people would be willing to bet on at the beginning of the season. Neemias Queta, for example. If someone had said back then that we would be talking about him as a guy who has been delivering real impact on the court with physical presence, rim protection, rebounding, energy, and a feeling of there's someone in there, A lot of people would laugh, but the season happens, and the games don't lie. Queta has been showing growth, and it's not that growth of, oh, he came in and was funny. It is the growth of those who understand what the team needs from them, of those who are fitting into the identity from the Celtics, who is contributing consistently. This changes everything, and when a player like that appears, it's not just about the numbers. It's about the message this sends to the entire cast. It's about culture. It's about the locker room understanding that there is room for evolution, that there is merit, that there is reward for those who work. It's about the fan looking and feeling, okay, we don't depend on a single route, because it's one thing to have a cast that desperately needs an external solution. Another thing is that you have a team that, despite challenges, finds internal solutions, and even so, can go to the market with intelligence if necessary. The difference is huge, and these Celtics are much closer to the second scenario. And then you ask me, but what about Luka Garza? Garza is another interesting story. It has limitations, of course. Everyone sees this. But what matters is that he offers something that, in certain games, is worth a lot. Shooting, spacing, efficiency. He walks in and doesn't look lost. He comes in and understands the role. He comes in and fulfills a role that matches the way this team likes to play, especially when you have wingers who attack and need the space to not be congested. So, when you add a growing Queta with a Garza contributing to what he knows how to do, you start to see a broader picture. The Celtics are not simply surviving in the paint. It is, in a way, organizing itself. And here comes the fans' pain. And I know you feel it, because I feel it too. We want to win now. We look at the cast, we look at what has already been built, and we think it's time. And that's exactly why rumors like this are so popular, because they stir our fear. The fear of getting to the front and missing that final piece. The fear of seeing an opponent from the East strengthening itself and us standing still. The fear of thinking, will the Celtics waste the window? That's the point. The rumor does not live only on information. He lives on emotion. He lives in anxiety. And the sensationalist title knows how to press that button perfectly. But when you breathe and look at the scene calmly, the question changes. Instead of who's enough, you start asking, what do the Celtics really need? And this question is much more difficult because it doesn't have a glamorous answer. It doesn't come with a photo of a superstar. It comes with analysis, with understanding of fitting, with locker room reading, with cost forecast, with risk. When, for example, someone like Isaiah Thomas mentions the idea of the Celtics entering into a trade for Anthony Davis, I understand the weight of that. He's a historic name, a guy who lived in tense moments with the green shirt and who has a voice. However, a strong speech does not automatically transform an idea into a logical path. Sometimes speech opens up a debate, and that's okay. The problem is when the debate becomes a ready-made narrative, as if the Celtics were one step away from doing this, and as if it were automatically the best decision. And then we come to the most delicate point, availability. You could be the most talented player in the world. If you're not on the court, you don't change anything. And the Celtics, as an organization, have demonstrated more than once that they value consistency, values fit, value the long term. Brad Stevens didn't become who he became by making impulse decisions. He makes decisions with his head, looking at the season as a complete project, not as a 30-second clip to go viral. And when you think about Anthony Davis's recent story, the discussion becomes inevitable. How big is the risk? What is the size of the investment? And most importantly, what is the logic of sacrificing depth, chemistry, and assets for a player whose physical presence is not guaranteed? I want you to imagine the scene for real. Imagine the Celtics giving up pieces, picks, flexibility, maybe even part of the rotation to bring in a huge name. The crowd, at first, explodes. It looks grand. It seems like now go. But then the calendar changes. The team needs regularity, needs continuity, needs collective rhythm, and the player is not available. What happens to chemistry? What happens to the development of those who were growing? What happens to the confidence of a squad that was proving capable? What happens to the fans' patience when the big movement turns into an endless wait? This is exactly where I think the Celtics need to stay true to what they are building. Because what Boston is doing this season is not just winning games. It's strengthening a team identity that doesn't despair, a team that adapts, a team that finds ways, a team that trusts in its own preparation. And honestly, that's a champion thing. You see championship teams do this all the time. It's not always the big change that solves it. Sometimes what solves the problem is the maturity of recognizing that you're on the right path. And if you're going to move, you have to move with surgical precision, without breaking what is working. And I like to bring this into our conversation because many times fans are placed in an unfair place. It seems that if you don't support a giant exchange, you don't want to win. And that's not it. Sometimes you want to win so much that you don't accept any risk disguised as a solution. You want to win the right way. You want to win with sustainability. You want to win with a squad that arrives healthy, fit, and confident when it matters. And this is the part that flashy titles don't tell you about. They skip straight to the name, but basketball is decided in the details. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think is behind all of this, and this is where the human part comes in. We like simple stories. We like direct narratives. Bring Anthony Davis and that's it. But the season is a living organism. The Celtics are a living organism. And the best thing that can happen to a strong team is to realize that the answer may lie within it. Neemias Queta growing up is one of these answers. Luka Garza delivering efficiency is another. And the rest of the cast understanding how to adjust the game without relying on a single formula is yet another answer. When you have that happening, you gain something that, in the NBA, is worth more than hype, room for maneuver. You can go to the market, yes, but you don't go desperate. You go with choices. You keep saying, if something comes along that really fits and makes sense, I'll do it. And this is very different from, I need to do anything because I have no alternative. And I feel that, deep down, this is what we need to defend as fans. Because the biggest danger for a team that is ready to compete is getting carried away by the noise. Social network noise, rumor noise. It needs a star noise. Boston doesn't need a star to look great. Boston is already big. What Boston needs is to be consistent with the plan. And coherence is often a boring word for those who live on clicks, but it's a beautiful word for anyone who wants to lift a trophy. I'm not saying the Celtics won't make any moves. The NBA is dynamic, and the market exists for a reason. A real opportunity can always arise, a perfect fit, a reasonable cost. But I am saying that turning the idea of trading for Anthony Davis into something logical, inevitable, or confirmed is ignoring everything the Celtics have shown on the court and off. It's ignoring internal growth. It is ignoring the value of continuity. It's ignoring the weight of building a cast that fits. And here's something that I think touches on our pain as fans. We've seen, more than once, teams destroying a good base out of anxiety. We've seen franchises trading depth for name and then regretting it. We've seen super teams that didn't become anything because they didn't have health, they didn't have chemistry, they didn't have time. So when you hear this rumor, it pokes at your fear, but it also pokes at your memory. And your memory says, calm down, this could go wrong. The truth is that the Celtics are playing basketball that exudes confidence. And I know that there are games that make you angry. There are moments when we think we need more. There are nights when the attack stops or the defense suffers. But the general picture is of a resilient, deep team ready to respond. And this is the basis of any long campaign. The playoffs do not forgive fragility. They don't forgive short cast. They do not forgive excessive dependence. If you want to make it to the end, you need more than a name. You need structure. And the Celtics are showing structure. So when I sit here to talk to you about this, I'm not trying to prune dreams. I want to put the dream in the right place. Because dreaming about a banner is one thing. Exchanging what is being built for a dangerous shortcut is another. And I honestly prefer Boston to arrive strong, whole, and coherent than to arrive with a pretty headline and an unstable cast. And now I want to bring you into this real conversation as part of the Celtics Talk Show. When you think about this rumor, what sensation comes first? Is it excitement or is it distrust? Do you look at what Queta and Garza are doing and feel like that changes your view on needing a center? Do you trust Brad Stevens to do what needs to be done without destroying the chemistry? I want to know because this community grows precisely when we talk honestly without falling into a ready-made narrative. I'll close with a simple idea. The Celtics don't need to prove anything to YouTube. The Celtics need to prove it on the court. And so far, what this team has been proving is that there is a way, there is development, there is depth, there is identity. And if there is an exchange, be it through fit, through real need, through concrete opportunity, it cannot be our noise. If you are with me in this way of seeing the team, stay here on the channel, because we will follow every step of this season with attention, with passion, and with a head. And when rumors appear, we will do what every intelligent fan does. Breathe, analyze, and ask, does this make sense for the Boston Celtics? Because that's how we get to the banner. The right way, the Boston way. And that's what I want to make clear before closing. The Celtics don't need noise to be dangerous. The Celtics are already dangerous. What we are seeing this season is a team that finds an answer at home, that grows in detail, that strengthens itself when the pressure increases. And that is exactly why this talk of bombastic exchange needs to be treated with care, because there is a huge difference between reinforcing and dismantling what is working. So I ask you a question that's worth the entire video. Do you want a giant name to make headlines? Or do you want a Celtics ready to lift the trophy when the light gets brighter? Because championships can't be won with rumors. They can't be won with hype. You win with a healthy squad, fit, depth, and intelligent decisions. And the way things are going, Boston is building something big, and anyone paying attention can feel it. Now, if you want to go even deeper, understand each adjustment, each trend, and each piece of this puzzle, I left the Celtics analysis playlist in the pinned comment. Click there as soon as you finish this video, because I put together this sequence precisely so you can see the Celtics beyond the headlines. What's working, what needs to improve, and what could decide the season ahead. And tell me here in the comments, would you make any changes now? Who would you keep at any cost? I want to read your opinion, because this community here is made up of people who really follow. See you in the next video. And remember, the path to the banner begins with information, not rumors.